This story is about a mom friend who looks down on other people's kids and tries to show off. But when she's told the truth about her friend's son, her face turns pale. Claire has an 8-year-old son who is not the most sociable and doesn't have many friends. However, he recently became friends with a new boy who transferred to his school. When Claire went to a parent-teacher meeting, she saw a familiar face. It was Zoe, her high school classmate. It turns out that Zoe is the mother of the new boy, but Claire has never really liked Zoe. Friend looks down on my son and says, "Your kid looks dumb." But when I reveal the truth, she turns pale. But when I reveal the truth, she turns pale. I have an 8-year-old son named Joseph. He's just like me. He likes to take things at his own pace and is more of an indoor type. The second term started today, and I went to a parent-teacher meeting today. When I got there, someone called out to me, "Hey, is that you, Claire?" When I turned around, I saw a familiar face. Oh my god, Zoe? It was Zoe, my high school classmate. It's been forever. We moved here in September. You look the same, still as plain as ever. She grinned as she said that. Zoe used to be the leader of a group of popular girls. You look the same too, just as pretty as you were back then. To which she replied, "Well, of course I'm beautiful. Women shine when they dress nicely." What are you thinking, wearing jeans and a t-shirt to a parent-teacher meeting? Don't tell me you don't have money to buy nice clothes. I was reminded of my high school days. Zoe and her gang of girls used to mock plain girls like me, so I never really liked her, but I discovered something surprising. It's not like that, but you're also into bargain shopping, huh? I didn't expect that, I said. Then she replied, "What do you mean?" She frowned and didn't understand what I meant. "That dress is from that cheap store, right? The price tag is still attached," I said as I pointed at the price tag attached to her neckline. Zoe checked her neckline quickly, and her face turned red with anger. "You should have said something sooner." "Sorry, I just saw it now," but she exclaimed, "You're useless," and walked out of the classroom. "Hey, Zoe, the meeting is starting soon." And she's gone. She didn't return to the classroom after that. I feel uneasy about meeting her again after making her angry like that. Claire wanted to distance herself from Zoe, but contrary to her wishes, the children deepened their friendship. One day, Joseph came home with his eyes sparkling, which was unusual, and with a big smile on his face, he said, "Mom, guess what? I became the class illustration team member." Seeing my son's excitement, I stopped cooking dinner and asked him, "Illustration team? What do you do?" Then my son answered loudly, "We draw illustrations and make the classroom look pretty. I'm doing it with Carter." "Carter? That's an unfamiliar name," I asked, and my son replied excitedly, "He's a kid who transferred in from the second term. Carter also likes drawing." Transferred from another school? Could it be Zoe's son? I felt uneasy as I nodded to Joseph, who was happily talking about it. Yeah, we became friends. "Carter likes drawing too. What's wrong, Mom?" Joseph asked, puzzled by my serious expression. I answered so that he wouldn't suspect anything. "Oh, it's nothing. Since Carter just transferred here and might be nervous, be kind to him. Okay, honey?" "Okay," he nodded. However, a few days later, something that Claire had been worried about happened. In the evening, Joseph returned home looking downcast. "Welcome back." "Joseph?" I approached him, worried, and saw that he had tears in his eyes. Feeling anxious for him, I asked, "What's wrong, honey? Did something happen? Are you feeling unwell?" Joseph, shedding tears, told me what happened. "Lately, Carter hasn't been talking to me much. I wondered if I did something wrong, and so asked him. It seems like his mom told him not to be friends with me." "What?" I was surprised by Joseph's words, but he continued and said something even more surprising. "His mom said my mom's poor, unfashionable, and an introvert. So she thinks I will be an unfashionable introvert too." "What the?" I trembled with anger. Joseph went on to say, "But Carter said he wants to be friends with me, but he doesn't know what to do because his mom told him that." "Mom, are we poor? Am I an unfashionable introvert?" I grabbed Joseph, who was crying, by the shoulder and said, "Of course not. We're not poor, and you aren't an unfashionable introvert. You're my precious, adorable pride and joy, so be proud of yourself." "Okay," he nodded as he wiped his eyes. I wanted to do something for the children. After Joseph fell asleep, Claire talked to her husband about it. I said to my husband, who was about to pour himself a drink, "Can you listen to me for a moment?" Joseph came home crying today. What happened? My husband James asked with the slightest surprised look. It seems that Joseph became friends with a boy named Carter who transferred in from the second term, but Carter's mother told him not to be friends with Joseph. James stopped his hand, which was about to open a can of beer for his evening drink, and said, "What? His mother said that?" I continued, "Apparently, she said that I am poor, unfashionable, and introverted, so she thinks Joseph will become unfashionable and introverted too." What the hell? James couldn't hide his surprise either. That boy's mother was my classmate in high school, and I was told the same thing back then. "She's like a kid, not a mother," James said in exasperation. "But Carter says he wants to be friends with Joseph, and it seems like Joseph wants to be friends too. But what should we do?" He was silent for a while, but he came up with an idea. "Why don't you talk to the school about it for now?" "Okay, I'll talk to the homeroom teacher tomorrow," I replied, and consulted with the teacher the next day. Then, a few days later, Joseph, Zoe, Carter, and I were called to the classroom after school. The teacher asked Zoe, "Why did you say such a thing to your son?" She seems dissatisfied with being summoned to the school. "Well, it's the truth, and you know they say children resemble their parents, right?" She gave a slight smile, and the teacher said sharply, "That may be true, and there may be some parts where children resemble their parents based on their involvement, but it doesn't seem like Carter resembles his mother much." "What? What are you trying to say?" she said discontentedly. "Carter doesn't say terrible things to his friends like you do," the teacher answered calmly. "What did you say?" Zoe seems unable to retort at the teacher's words. Then the teacher told the children, "You don't have to worry about anything. Just be friends with each other, no matter what anyone says. You are friends." Upon hearing this, the children's eyes sparkled, and they said with smiles, "Yes, we're already friends. We're going to be good friends forever." "Hey, Carter," Zoe said angrily, "please acknowledge the children. Parents have no say in children's friendships. If there are any more incidents that make them sad, I will bring it up at the next parent-teacher conference." The teacher turned to Zoe and spoke sternly. "Fine, Carter, let's go home." Zoe reluctantly agreed and seemed to want to leave the scene quickly with Carter. "Okay, bye everyone." Carter waved his hand to us and followed Zoe. Suddenly, it became quiet around us, and I sighed. "I hope she understands. I did my best, but I don't think I was much of a help," she said apologetically to me. "Oh, no, you did great. Thank you very much for your help. I'm sure the kids appreciate your help too. I will continue to watch over them carefully, so please contact me anytime if anything happens," she said. "Thank you very much," I replied and went home with my son. I told my husband, who had come back from work, about what happened at school that day. "I hope it helps the situation, even if it's a little," James said with a troubled look. While handing him a fork and knife, I said to him, "I think the teacher is also in a tough spot." "Let's wait and see for a while," said James, and I agreed. Yes, the teacher seems willing to cooperate. We decided to keep an eye on the situation. I know I have to continue my relationship with Zoe, and honestly, I feel like it's become a bit of a hassle. Fortunately, Joseph never came home crying again after that. He also seemed to enjoy telling us about Carter's stories. Since the second term had just begun, we prayed that nothing else would happen. However, it was impossible for nothing to happen. The next incident came to Claire's attention soon enough. Towards the end of the second term, the school held an art exhibition where parents could see the handcrafts and paintings that the children had made during the term. The children's works were displayed everywhere, from the gymnasium, the music room, to the corridors and classrooms. "Mom, Dad, you're finally here!" Joseph, who had come to school before us, waved his hands excitedly at the entrance. "I'll be your guide. Let's start with the classrooms." Joseph then led us by the hand and started to show us around. In the classroom were the papers displaying calligraphy and the goals of the second term. "What's that?" I asked, pointing to a paper of an anime character that was not part of the exhibition. "That's what Carter and I drew. It's part of our job as the illustration team. There are many kids in our class who like that anime character, so we drew everyone's favorite illustration together," Joseph proudly replied. As we looked around the classroom, illustrations that the two had probably drawn were displayed everywhere, and I asked, "Wow, did the two of you draw all of these together?" He replied excitedly, Yeah, I had so much fun drawing together with Carter, and we drew so many that we couldn't put them all up in the classroom, so we gave the ones that we couldn't put up to the teacher and the other kids. Both of you are so talented, I praised him with a smile. Then we continued to chat and admire the works on display until we arrived at the gymnasium. There, memories of the summer vacation and the second term were displayed on paintings. This is my painting! Joseph pointed to a painting of a large firework shining in the night sky on a whole sheet of drawing paper. Wow, this is beautiful. It's a painting from the fireworks display we went to before, I said, also remembering the fireworks. You're so talented, Joseph, my husband exclaimed, admiring the painting. Hee. Joseph chuckled happily. Carter, what's this painting? It's just blue and white. What's this black grain-like thing? I heard a familiar voice and turned around, and there were Zoe and her husband, William. Carter explained the painting. This is a painting from when we went to the beach. The blue is the sea, the white is the sand, and the black is people. People? Look at this. This is supposed to be a person? How funny, said Zoe, mocking him. He's still in elementary school, so what do you expect? William said, but he was too busy playing with his phone to pay attention to Carter's painting. As I watched Zoe ridicule Carter's drawing and her husband's lack of interest in his own child's work, Carter's smile disappeared. I couldn't hold back my frustration any longer and was about to say something to Zoe and William when Joseph spoke up. Why won't you say something nicer about his painting? Carter worked really hard on this. Before I could say anything, Joseph spoke to Zoe and her husband. Joseph? Carter muttered. Who is this kid? William asked, confused. That's my son. Upon hearing this, Zoe approached Joseph and said with a laugh, It's you again. I told you not to get close to Carter, but you're still pestering us. I just want to be friends with Carter, Joseph replied firmly. But Zoe looked down on him and said, A kid like you, with all those negative vibes, isn't suitable for Carter. Looking at you again today, I can tell you're stupid. A kid with a low IQ and no worth. As I listened to Zoe belittle Joseph, my anger overflowed, but I held it in and said, Do you really mean that? I pointed to a certain spot where Joseph's name and painting were displayed, and beneath the painting was a sign that read, Best in National Competition. Huh? What is that? Zoe looked confused, so I said, It's Joseph's painting. Then Zoe said, What? And pushed through the crowd and looked at the name and the painting several times. Then I said, My child may be quiet and may not have good grades, but he is the best at painting. My husband added, Joseph has a talent and wins some kind of award every year. To which Zoe responded, Every year? She was surprised, and I said with a smile, You might not know since you just moved in, but my son is quite famous. Zoe lifted her eyes in frustration and spat out, How could a painting like this be selected? How can you say a painting like this? Have you even looked at the painting closely? The homeroom teacher intervened and said to Zoe, who was shaking with anger, Your son is in the painting. What? The painting depicted Joseph and Carter happily doing the illustration work in the classroom. The title was Important Friends. The teacher continued, This is a beautiful painting that clearly shows that Joseph and Carter are having fun and enjoying their school life together. Don't you feel anything seeing this wonderful painting? Zoe faltered, and the teacher added, You shouldn't judge people by their appearance, and children can be friends with anyone. Sometimes there may be people who don't get along well, but as adults, isn't it our job to watch over them? Being told that, Zoe was speechless. I'm sorry. At that moment, Zoe's husband came over quickly, looking pale. How can I possibly apologize for all the rudeness my wife has shown? I'm very, very sorry. Although William had not participated in the conversation up until then, he suddenly began to apologize, which surprised me. Hey, why are you apologizing for me? I didn't do anything rude, Zoe complained as she watched her husband apologizing, but he kept apologizing. Then my husband spoke up. Who would have thought? It was your wife after all. I didn't understand what was going on and asked James, Wait, what do you mean? Do you know him? He is one of my subordinates, James answered. What? I was surprised and unintentionally raised my voice. Indeed, my husband was a manager at an IT-related company. I heard the name Carter from my wife, and when the timing of the transfer, I thought it might be you, William. I was expecting a lot from you when you were promoted and came from the branch to the headquarters. I am disappointed." When my husband said that, William's face turned bright red and he said, "I'm terribly sorry. I'll do my best to meet your expectations from now on." James then said, "Don't disappoint me any more than you have already." To which William replied, "I won't, sir." Then James added, "You also have a problem, William. You've been playing with your phone the whole time. That's why I didn't notice, even when I was nearby." William said, "I'm terribly sorry." But James continued, "You don't need to apologize to me. Apologize to your son. Don't take your child's growth and feelings for granted. Take school events more seriously." James raised his voice, but Zoe interjected, "Hey, hold on. Just because he's your boss doesn't mean you have to be a pushover to Claire's husband. You look so lame." William panicked and shouted at her, "Hey, don't say rude things, Zoe. This man is the head of my department." "What? The head?" Zoe, who had just looked down on him, was taken aback. William apologized to his son. "I'm sorry, son. I'll make sure to pay attention next time. So, can you guide us again?" Carter happily nodded and said, "Sure." "Well then, we'll be going now," William said awkwardly. "Thank you, guys. We'll see you later." Carter thanked and waved goodbye to us and the teacher. William apologized to us repeatedly and left with Zoe, who looked embarrassed. The tumultuous art exhibition had come to an end. James and I apologized to the teacher for causing a commotion and went home. That night, while we were having dinner, Joseph suddenly asked his father, "Hey, Dad, is Carter's dad going to be forced to move?" "Carter's dad isn't going to move unless he makes a big mistake at work," he replied kindly. "Really?" Joseph exclaimed. "When he's working, he's very serious and works hard. I also rely on Carter's dad," he said, smiling. "I see. That's good," Joseph said, relieved, and took a bite of his food. The day after the art exhibition, Zoe's husband came to our house again to apologize. However, Zoe was not there, so I asked him, where's Zoe?" "Actually, I asked her to come with me to apologize, but she insisted that she did nothing wrong and refused to come. When I insisted, she got angry and stormed out of the house." William hung his head and continued, "Also, I've been suspicious for a while, but Zoe's infidelity came to light and I had hired a detective. The detective called me during the exhibition, and that's why I was on my phone then." He revealed the shocking fact. "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm also sorry that I said all those harsh things to you without knowing the circumstances," said James. "No, whatever the reason, being on the phone at my son's art exhibition is not a sign of a good father." He seemed to regret his actions. After learning the situation, we agreed to take care of Carter. It has been almost a week since then, but Zoe hasn't returned yet. William had lost patience and was proceeding with divorce proceedings. After that, Carter started to visit our house frequently. We sometimes had dinner together. The reason was because Zoe had left the house. Carter would come to our house with a smile and say, "Hi." So I would reply with a smile, "Welcome, Carter." And he would ask, "Can I do my homework with Joseph today? We have a lot to do." I would say, "Of course, I'll bring some snacks later." He responded with a cheerful, "Yay!" Even though Zoe had left the house, Carter was still energetic. Maybe he was not happy living with Zoe. Zoe and William ended up divorcing 1 month later. Then, one evening, Zoe stormed into my house. "Claire, do something!" She barged into my house without permission when I opened the door. "Hey, don't just barge in like that." "Your ex-husband is my ex-husband's boss, right? Convince him to waive my alimony." She started to say unreasonable things. "What? That's not possible," I replied. "Then tell him to give me custody of Carter. I can't afford such high alimony," Zoe shouted. "Are you relying on child benefits or something?" I asked her. "Yes, it will help a little, won't it?" she answered. "If you plan to take Carter just for that reason, I will never help you," I said firmly. "Wait, who do you think you are, Claire?" It was her usual line. Just then, "Don't talk bad about my mom," Joseph said loudly. "Joseph?" When I turned around, Carter and Joseph were standing there. "We came back together because we wanted to play together today," Joseph said. Then Zoe continued, "That's perfect. Carter, come with me." Carter shook off Zoe's hand as she tried to pull him and said, "No, I don't want to go with you, Mom. I don't want to be with someone who talks bad about Joseph and his mother." "What did you say?" "You always do this. You never understand my feelings. Yesterday was my birthday. You probably forgot, didn't you? She looked surprised when Carter told her that. Oh, she seems to have really forgotten it. I don't want to have anything to do with you, Mom. Go away. Zoe couldn't say anything and left. Later, Carter cut ties with Zoe and is now getting along well with his father. It seems that Carter has become more open and cheerful than before, perhaps because he used to be told many bad things from Zoe. By the way, as for Zoe, she seems to have been abandoned by her affair partner. Due to the compensation money, she apparently came to Carter's house and tried to reconcile, but was rejected by Carter again and went home in a dejected state. We also want to support his family in our own small way and want to continue being friends with them. So, what did you think of the story? We never want to become someone like Zoe, who imposes her own values on others and looks down on people based on their appearance. Has anyone tried to show their superiority over you? It's not a great feeling, is it? By the way, Joseph and Carter will be in the same class next year, and apparently they will continue to work together as illustration team members. Thank you for watching until the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, we would love to hear from you, so leave us a comment in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Goodbye.